Before this video starts, I just want to give a massive shout out to all my channel members. If you want to receive a shout out, then become a channel member today and you'll be shown on screen like all these other channel members here. Anyways, enjoy the video. In version 14.6, a brand new Elemental Pixie was added, this being a Nature Pixie, Komori, or Moririn in their evolved form. Their first form's kit brings curse against black and alien enemies, both Colossus and Behemoth Slayer, and warp immunity. The second form adds resist, as well as conjure and barrier breaker. In this video, I want to go over this new Pixie and see how well they can perform in their niches. Both forms will be covered in separate sections. Most of the footage is of a level 40 Komori. Komori's first form is like all of the other Pixies, in that they're more similar to super rares than uber rares. This form has a 50% chance to curse alien and black enemies for 4 or 4.8 seconds with treasures. They also have Colossus and Behemoth Slayer, as well as warp immunity. To lay it down straight, the first form isn't the best, and in most situations, you would just rather use the second form. Having only a 50% chance to curse alien and black enemies with nothing else onto them does make their use extremely limited. The most value you'll get with the curse is in stages that have restrictions in Cats of the Cosmos. Colossus Slayer does nothing for this form, as most Colossus bosses will just one-shot the Pixie. The main use for the first form is as a secondary attacker alongside Courier, mainly against Scissorex, as they are most affected by Komori's curse. When looking at the raw numbers, they have an okay 34,000 health and deal a decent 21,000 damage. Comparatively, Courier deals 17,000 damage, while Mushroom deals 16,000 damage. Their DPS is about half of Courier's, however, and their 2.2 second force swing means they don't work all too well against behemoths that are easily juggled. This force swing also makes them struggle a lot against the more aggressive behemoth enemies, like the Joes, or like 75% of the other behemoths. What I'm basically trying to say is that this form really only works as a secondary attacker against less aggressive behemoth enemies, but in 95% of situations in general, you're just better off using the second form, with this form only really working in the restriction Cats of the Cosmos stages. Speaking of the second form, this form turns them into more of a general uber, but the boost they do get does give them some use. The curse becomes a 100% chance to do so, as well as gaining a conjure, barrier breaker, resistance, and general stat buffs, like 380 range. The resistance does give them a significant boost to their overall effective health, having nearly 300,000 HP at level 30. While this health is on the higher end when compared to most black and alien tanks, their ability to actually tank and endure hits is okay at best, mainly due to their 3 knockbacks, and the fact that black enemies tend to have a lot of pushing power. They sport a middling damage stat of 24,000 damage, and their DPS is pretty average, if not slightly below average at 4.8k DPS. Curse is their main form of crowd control, and this curse is a rather solid ability, at least for aliens. As for black enemies, most of them rely on their raw stats to do the work, so many of them don't have CC abilities that could be shut down with curse. Only 3 enemies do have abilities that are worth shutting down, these being Baku, Dark Joe, and Kurokrok. It is important to note that 2 of these 3 are behemoth enemies, a group of enemies that they work well against, but that is more for later. As for aliens, this is a trait that has a ton of enemies with crowd control, including half of the starred aliens being able to warp. Being able to shut this down for a good period of time can make a ton of aliens less aggressive. The curse uptime is a very impressive 95%. However, the fact that it can curse aliens does bring up the Colonel, who can also curse aliens, and for a much longer period of time. Fried Chicken's curse easily outshines Komoririn's ability to curse, as Fried Chicken's curse time is way more sustainable. Though if you don't have Fried Chicken Cat yet, their curse is still solid enough to shut down alien CC. Now about their auxiliary abilities, like Colossus and Behemoth Slayer. Against non-target Colossus bosses, they have 85,000 health and deal 39,000 damage against them. Against black or alien Colossus bosses, they sport 425,000 effective health. Their Colossus Slayer doesn't exactly help for most of the Gauntlet bosses, as most of them have the ability to easily kill them, as well as not having the best compatibility with their supports. However, for Legrim and Super Hypo, they can work rather well. Granted, this does require boosted levels to actually ensure they can get stuff done. For Legrim, their infrequent attacks and being able to outrange everything else in the stage does give them some time to shine before they die. Their better matchup, however, is against Super Hypo, where they can outrange their Omni Strike and can sit inside Taki's blind spot, allowing them to stay alive for much longer. In saying this, however, if you're intending on doing these bosses, then you'll probably have better Ubers that are more suited to defeating them, considering how far into the game you have to be in order to stand a chance. Where they do get a lot more value early on is with their Behemoth Slayer, as unlike every other Behemoth Slayer, save for one, this unit comes pre-packaged with it. Unlike their first form, having 380 range in their second form allows them to actually outrange many of the common early Behemoth enemies like Dark Joe and Ahirujo. At level 30, they sport 99,000 effective HP, or 495,000 effective HP against alien and black behemoths, and being able to deal 61,000 damage against them. Having this relatively early into your playthrough can make a lot of behemoth content easier to manage, simply due to the 2.5 times damage multiplier the ability gives. Of course, there is one behemoth related content that is strictly endgame that this Uber excels in fighting. This of course is being against Bunaglios. However, like with the Colossus bosses, Komori needs to be boosted to truly excel. The difference though is the fact that most Ubers just simply don't work against Bunaglios. Because of the statflation they get with both Resist and Behemoth Slayer, they work in most of the Bunaglios stages, especially on the final stage, where Bunaglios is supported with a Kurokroc. Speaking of the Crocodile, being able to shut down their weaken can make your other units able to deal a lot more long-term damage, which is a huge bonus. One last thing they have in their kit is their Conjure. This Conjure is able to weaken all enemies for 6.67 seconds, or 8 seconds against traits that are affected by a treasure. The weaken from the Conjure will allow you to defend against enemies a lot better, and being able to let more squishy units last a lot longer. Conjure is also always just nice, on-command damage that can seriously chunk some enemies. So, how good is Komori? Well, their kit is pretty good for aliens, but for black enemies, this Uber doesn't really do much, seeing as Curse against black enemies isn't that great of an ability, and was made simply just to handle Kurokroc's weaken. Using with the tank isn't the best either due to their high knockback count, giving them rather low endurance. Their two Slayer abilities do give them some space in their stages, and their Behemoth Slayer can give early game players a much easier time dealing with that Behemoth content, as well as Bunaglios. Outside of these, however, their stats don't really give them a lot of room to work in most places, and in many endgame situations, using alternatives like fried chicken are much more preferable. With all that said, I want to thank you for watching this analysis of Komori. If you thought this insight was interesting, then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Battle Cat's content, and comment down below your thoughts on them. I'd love to hear what you all think of them. Also, shout out to the following channel members: Dr. Deadly, Gamet, Ian Dean, Ninja Stars, Virus Opero, Just a Shark, Potato King, Gross Cat the Best, Tensigo Gaming, At Sushi, King Wolf, Regaming, Janek Altenberg, Clamorous, Barely Grover, and Carps for being silver members or higher. If you want to receive a shout out like these channel members here, then become a silver member or higher today. Becoming a channel member supports what I do in a way that helps keep the lights on, and allows me to continue making content for all of you to watch. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day.